Welcome to Mindful Moments with Dama and Mackenzie, a video series about progress, not perfection, in parenting and mental health. This free resource is part of our commitment to supporting families and caregivers. We reference evidence-based tools throughout with deep appreciation for the work of conscious discipline and other leaders in social emotional learning and positive parenting. All credit goes to the original creators. This video is for educational purposes only and not a substitute for professional training or certification. Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Hi, Mackenzie. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing good.
Okay. I'm glad you're doing well today.
Yeah.
We last time talked about cooperation and how important we talked about connection and how important it is for cooperation.
It is.
And that in order to get where we want to go with the child to help them learn a new skill or problem solve, or for any of us, we have to be up in that executive part of our brain. So in the last two sessions, we talked about providing safety. And then we talked about last time about connection. And so it's really important that before we try to get a child to cooperate with anything we want to happen, that we establish that connection and that we make sure they're moving up into that higher center of their brain. So before we start talking about tools to get to cooperation after we have connection, do you want to add anything to that?
I think just remembering that a child can never be in a higher state than we are as adults. And so making sure that if we're noticing that we are slipping into those lower centers of our brain, that we need to figure out, okay, what can I do to keep myself in my executive state, or we're not going to get anywhere with our child.
Right. And that we're not letting them get away with whatever behavior it is we want to stop, or not going to help them get to the behavior we want them to have by getting that safety and connection in place.
Yeah.
We're not being permissive parents
Yeah.
by by getting them up to that executive state before we try to do anything else. What we're doing is we're using our brains to their fullest capacity and recognizing that we're not ready yet to move on to that next thing. So it's okay to take a minute and establish that safety and connection before we move on to
Well, and we'll talk a lot about assertiveness later, I think, Dama, but as a parent who is on social media, I think the term gentle parenting has really been overused on social media in the last couple of years, and it really turns people off. And I think what people typically think about when they think about gentle parenting is actually passive parenting. And so when I'm talking to parents or friends or family members in the last couple of years, what I like to use more is the assertive parenting language. And we'll talk about that later. But I think a lot of parents who are maybe listening might have that kind of thought in their brain right now, is that, oh, if I use these supportive, gentle, whatever language you want to use, then that means my child's going to be walking all over me, and I'm going to, just unleash this into the world. That really, that's not what we're talking about. And I think we'll make that distinction here today, hopefully.
Absolutely. Great distinction. It is something that I hear a lot, that gentle parenting doesn't work. Well, yeah, passive or
It's because you're actually using passive parenting.
Yeah, doesn't work. You're exactly right. And it produces people who are not the best people we want to be around. So
Not enjoyable to be around. Yeah.
exactly. So that's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about limiting harm. We're talking about limiting trauma. We're talking about mental health. And but we are also talking about effective evidence-based parenting. And I like the assertive parenting language as well. Okay, so once we have established safety and connection, and we can tell that our child is moving up into their executive states, then, and we have our eye contact, our touch, our presence, we're there, we're getting there. Then the very first thing we need to do is focus in on what we want to happen, not what we don't want to happen. I think that a lot of people forget, there's a lot of research around this, that we only hear about 75% of what other people say, and we fill in the blanks with the rest. And a lot of it might not even be 75%. I might even have that too high. We tend to hear the last few words somebody said, and then our brains kind of fill in the rest.
Yeah.
Children especially.
Specifically verbs too,
Yes,
right? Our
yes,
brains focus on verbs.
yes. So if we say to a child, don't run, what that child's brain likely heard was run.
Yeah.
Um, and I have a great example of this when my daughter was about 3. And I don't know why this has always stuck in my head, but it just was one of those aha moments for me.
Hmm.
She was about 3 and she was a, learning English as a second language. She
Hmm.
had come from Guatemala, so she was very young and mostly spoke Spanish, mostly understood Spanish. She was 3 at the time, and I handed her a juice box. And I said to her, don't squeeze it. And what did she do? She squeezed it. Juice
Yeah.
went everywhere. I was baffled. I
Yeah.
was like, what? Okay,
Yeah.
let's try this again. I grabbed the juice box, I cleaned it up. I handed her the juice box again and I said, don't squeeze it. I'm even doing this, right? Okay, she takes it from me, smile on her face, squeezes it again.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking at that point, this child is defying me. That's where my brain went.
So not only did you paint the picture with your words, you gave her a really good visual
Yeah,
too.
I showed her exactly what to do. And I was not always capable of doing this and messed up a lot, but in that moment, for some reason, I managed to take a deep breath. And
Yeah.
I handed her the juice box in again, and this time I said, hold it gently, hold it gently. And she took it from me, took a drink, and we were good to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is a classic example of
Yeah.
focusing on what you want
Yeah.
and not what you don't want.
Yeah.
So, we need to really think about what we want a child to do in a situation, not what we don't want them to do. You don't
Hmm.
want a child to run on the slick cement at the pool? Walk. Tell them
Hmm.
to walk.
Hmm.
Walk like this.
Hmm.
Using the like this language is also really helpful. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about why that's true in a few minutes. But yeah, so do you have any examples of this, Mackenzie?
My favorite adult example is when I'm in a room of adult learners and I say, don't think about pizza. And I see people kind of, especially if it's around like 5 o'clock after work, people kind of their minds start to wander. And I'm like, you all are thinking about calling Domino's after.
Mhm.
So it's all of us. And I think that when we jump to focusing on what we don't want versus what we do want, we're coming from those lower center of our brains because we just want that behavior to stop.
Yeah.
So if you're finding yourself, don't stop that kind of language, it's because you're rushed and you're stressed and we get it, but you're also shining a big bright flashlight on that thing that you don't want because our words have power. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to add to that.
Yeah. This is just a really, it's almost a magical piece of the puzzle.
Mhm.
There are very few things that are magic wands for parenting. This one always sort of feels like a magic wand to me. When I manage to make those words come out right, when I manage to say what I want and not what I don't want, it changes the whole dynamic of the situation. It's really useful and it's fun to actually see parents react when you do this in front of them with their child who's struggling and see their child suddenly, oh, that's
Mhm.
what you want me to do? And they do it.
Mhm.
And then they're just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
It's kind of a beautiful tool. So it is hard though, because you have to be in your executive state to think about what you want instead of don't want. You know, we just want them to stop jumping on the couch.
Yeah.
Stop doing that thing. Well, what do we want them to do instead? What do you
Yeah.
want them to do on the couch? Do you want them to sit
Mhm.
on the couch? Do you want them to jump on the floor, on the trampoline, on the think about where they can jump, think about what they
Right.
can do on the couch and name those things instead. But it is kind of a flip because we tend to focus on the negative. We have a negativity
Mhm.
bias
Mhm.
naturally. It's it's a survival mechanism. It's a good
Yeah.
thing in a lot of situations, but it can get us in trouble. So we have to kind of
Yeah.
short circuit. This is where the conscious part, conscious discipline in Becky Bailey's world comes from. This idea that we're going to stop and bring into our consciousness what we want to happen. What do we want to happen in this situation? Okay, I probably banged that down.
No, it's great.
I just think it's a really important little piece of this.
It's really important. Mhm.
Okay, so in order to do that, Mackenzie already talked about using an assertive voice. So we're going to talk a
Mhm.
little bit about what assertive voice is. Mackenzie, you want to tell us a little bit about what you think assertive voice is?
Assertive voice is just as the sky is blue. So it is no question marks, no exclamation marks at the end of a sentence. It is just put your shoes next to your coat. It is just, it's fact, right? And so it's taking a lot of that fear and emotion or passiveness question, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, out of our directions or um, commands to children.
Yeah. I like to think about the assertive voice as giving information. What
Yeah.
voice do you use to tell somebody directions? If somebody stops you and says, hey, how do I get to this place or that place? What tone of voice do you use to tell them?
Yeah.
How do you give
Calm, correct.
directions? Right?
Yeah.
You're calm, you're neutral. You don't have strong
Mhm.
feelings about how to get there unless, you're telling them not to go a certain way, and then you
Yeah.
might have strong feelings. But it's a calm, neutral, passing along information. It's
Yeah.
time to put your shoes on.
Mhm.
That's just a fact. It's time. We
Mhm.
have to put our shoes on now. Um,
Mhm.
so I think where we get messed up is that we don't really understand what passive and aggressive voices look like in um, comparison to what an assertive voice is. So when we talk about passive, there's usually a questioning involved. We are not projecting that we're sure about something. One of the it is usually leaving some kind of choice up to somebody else. Uh,
Yeah.
my worst habit, very worst habit as a classroom teacher was to tack the word okay onto
Same.
the
I was
end
hoping you would say that. Same.
onto the end of any statement. It's
Yeah.
time to clean up, okay?
Okay.
What did I just do there? I just told them there was an option. This wasn't a
Yep.
fact. This was
Yep.
we're going to agree that it's time to clean up. Instead of just passing along information, I just opened up the floor for debate.
I struggled with okay or are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready was my big passive voice that would show up. Are you
Yeah.
ready to put your coat on? Well, no, I'm not ready to put my coat on. What are you saying?
Yeah, so stopping to think, am I passing along information or am I opening this up for debate or conversation? It's not that we're not ever going to give children questions. We're not ever going
Yeah.
to have questions. But the thing is, if it's not optional,
Yeah.
don't open it up to be optional. It's
Yeah. Not
just,
everything's a choice.
yeah, not for
Yeah.
adults, not for any of us.
Yeah.
Um, when you tell someone to turn right at the stop sign, turning left
Mhm.
is not really an option because they're gonna go the wrong way. So
Yeah.
we're not giving options, we're giving information.
Yep.
Um, and that on the flip side of the coin, we've got aggressive voice. And
Mhm.
the aggressive tone is that tone that is punishing or making something
Mhm.
happen, forcing your will onto something else. And the thing about the aggressive tone is that we can turn an assertive tone into an aggressive tone real easily just
Yeah.
by forgetting that we're just passing information along. We're not
Yeah.
imposing our will, we're passing information on.
Yeah.
And that is really the key difference there. If I say it's time to put your shoes on, I can turn that into aggression with it's time to put your shoes on. It's
Yeah.
just 10 times. I mean,
Yeah.
if you find yourself clenching your jaw, if you find
Mhm.
yourself falling into your emotional state, you've gone into aggressive. Um,
Mhm.
anything to add to that?
I think I see a lot of adults, including myself in the past, start with positive intention without being conscious that they're providing a passive direction. So they'll say, "Okay, are you ready to put your coat on? It's time to put our coat on, okay? Let's go put our coat on, all right?" And then so they will. They've said it multiple times, so they'll be frustrated. And then they'll go to aggressive. I have told you 3 times already to put your coat on. Now you better put your coat on, or else we're not going. And we just completely skip over that assertive option where we could save so much time and energy and effort if we just start with the assertive tone.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the problem with passive and aggressive is that they're
yeah,
kind of two sides of the same coin.
they are.
And we're gonna cause ourselves all kinds of frustration and anxiety if we allow ourselves to become passive, because then we will become aggressive later, as you said.
I
And
also, you mentioned, oh, sorry, Dama, go
no, go
ahead.
ahead.
You mentioned the kind of magic wand that none of this is magic wand. It's just tools to start you on a really solid foundation. And I do think that assertiveness, while it's not a magic wand, your child won't follow your assertive command every time. We're starting on that solid foundation where we have connection, we're regulated ourselves, and we're providing an assertive command. So those are, I mean, three huge tools to add to your tool belt to give you that really solid foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, And if you're struggling to find your assertive voice, my thing is always the very first thing I would tell you to do is look at the ceiling and say, the ceiling's above me.
Mm,
And
hmm.
then you found your assertive voice. There it is.
There it is.
The ceiling's above me. Now, after you've done that, you found your tone, the tone that you need. Think about the kind of script: name,
Mhm,
verb, paint. So
mhm.
we're going to say the child's name, because getting their attention, we want the eye contact, we want to be connected with that other
Yeah.
person. And oftentimes we get frustrated if we think they don't hear us. So if we've said their name or touched their shoulder gently, or so they're looking at us, or at least we know we have their attention. Sometimes they're not going to look at us, but we have their attention. Name, and then verb. As you said earlier, we our brains automatically zone in on verbs that are said. So we've said their name to get their attention. We're going to put a verb in there next:
Mhm.
go, put, whatever
Walk.
thing that you
Yeah.
walk. Yeah, the verb. And then we're going to paint a picture, a clear picture of what we want. This is the focusing on what we want part of this.
Mhm,
So they're running on the cement at the pool. We're going to say, Sam, walk on the cement like this.
mhm.
And then we might actually show them how we want.
Yeah.
Um, actually showing, concrete example of what it is we want. Anything to add to that?
I had a classroom mentor tell me one time because I was, you know, in the classroom, lots of children, overwhelmed. I was giving assertive commands from across the room. And this classroom mentor told me, hand, if you need to be close enough to the child to hand them the command versus throwing the command. So if you are far enough away where you have to toss something to the child, then you're not close enough. And this is easier said than done with 8 children or more in a classroom. But it really, when I thought of that visualization, is if I'm having to throw this across the room, then this is not an assertive command because we don't have that joint attention and it's not developmentally appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about how often we yell up the stairs at our kids.
Yeah.
Hey, whoever, it's time for dinner. Come down
Yeah.
here. We've tossed it to them. Not,
Yes.
and when the further you are away from the basket, the more less likely it is to go in. So yes,
Yeah.
you can yell 5 times up the
Mhm.
stairs, or one time, which
Yep.
will take you, 2 or 3 minutes of your time, or you can walk up the stairs, go straight to their room and look them in the
Yeah.
eye, and there you go.
Yeah.
It went much more quickly. We
Yeah.
think this is
Yeah.
actually time saving for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And dysregulation saving for yourself. Like you're going to feel a lot less frustrated if you take the time.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about painting a picture of what we want. Another really powerful tool for cooperation is visuals.
Hmm.
Children think in pictures. Before we have words, before we have lots of language, we think in pictures. And,
Hmm.
adults need visuals too. We have schedules, we have instructions, we have all kinds of visuals. I mean, I always use the example of IKEA instructions. I
Yeah.
don't speak the same language as the people who own IKEA, so they have chosen to use pictures to show us how to do things. And those pictures go step by step by step to show us what to do. It's very clear. The information is very clear. Um, Visuals are powerful tools. And I
Yeah.
think that even though we use them for ourselves, many, on a daily basis, we forget that we're not providing them for children. Um, and
My
we
favorite adult example is Google Calendar.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. I'm very dependent on my
same.
calendar, extremely dependent. So yeah, uh, they don't have to be elaborate, but using some kind of visual to help a child know about a routine or schedule that's going on in your household. Maybe it's the routine for getting ready for school in the morning. Maybe it's the routine for getting ready for bed at night. Maybe it's the bath time routine. But routines that happen the same time, same way every day, or at least close to the same way, can really benefit from a visual, especially if it's a uh, struggle time of the day. Um,
Yeah.
Visuals can be very, very powerful. Do you have
Mhm.
any examples of that?
Visuals don't have to take a long time to create. There's so many options. You can go on Pinterest and type in bedtime visual and it'll pop up some examples of things that you can just print out. But I would also say the most effective visuals are visuals of children doing what they need to be doing themselves. And so if I'm working with a parent that is just so overwhelmed that even the idea of printing something out and creating that, or I don't have access to a printer, that kind of thing, take your phone, have the child go through the routine that you want. Kids love to perform. They know that things are, oh, we're going to take pictures of our bedtime routine. All right. And then you have that in an album on your phone, just ready to pull out and flip through. Okay, this is the expectation. This is what we're doing. What's next? Let's slide through. And even they can be the one to slide through. That's the most simplified version of a visual routine or expectation that I've used is just right on your phone.
I love that. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of the dad at the, I think I talked about this in a previous video of the dad who
Yeah.
made the routine, visual routine of his, for his child during drop off for
Yeah.
school at childcare. Um, and how powerful that was for both of them. I think it kept dad in his executive state as much as it kept the child in theirs. Um,
Yeah.
they can be very, very profound. And you
Yeah.
can make them really fun if you want to. Some people get real creative with this.
Mm-hmm.
Concrete is great. I've seen great ones that have a routine where they have a little Velcro on them and they shut each thing as they go through it, or they take it off and put it in an envelope as they go through it. That's great, but it doesn't have to be like that. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be something that you spent a ton of time on. I know there are lots of Pinterest moms out there who love to make things all cute and wonderful, and that's
Great.
awesome. But
Yeah.
there's also a lot of moms and dads out there who are just overwhelmed. And I
Yeah.
love that idea of the
Yeah.
scroll through the pictures on your
Those
phone.
are pictures. You can
Perfect.
also use that to capture when a child was successful following a routine. So let's say, like with the drop off, for example, drop off is hard. We made visuals, we went through it, and we did it. Let me take a picture of you so we can remember how excited you were when you did this, and you can look back through it.
Which is a great segue to what I was going to talk about next, which is using noticing language.
Great.
When our child is successful, we need to celebrate that,
Yeah.
right? And noticing language is such a great way to do that. And I think that some people don't realize there's a little bit of a difference between praise and
Mm-hmm.
encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
And for our purposes, as we're talking today, we're going to be talking about encouragement as a little bit separate from praise. And when we are encouraging a child to do something, we are focused on the child's action and
Mm-hmm.
its impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not so much on its impact on us, but on
Yeah.
that child's life, on the environment, on the family, on the classroom, on, the world. That's where we want to put the impact. We're not just trying to teach a child to please us. We're trying
Mm.
to teach a child to do things that are good for them and for the rest of the world. So,
Yeah.
this is where I always talk about, in communication, we've always been taught to use I statements, right? Well, in this case, we're going to use you statements.
Mm-hmm.
You brush teeth and put on your pajamas. So now you're all ready for bed and we have plenty of time to read together.
Mm-hmm.
We just totally encourage that child to do it again because we told them exactly what they did that was great. And then we told them why that was so helpful because they now have extra time to read tonight.
Yeah.
The impact of their uh, actions on the world is much more motivating, actually, for most of us than it
Mm-hmm.
is than punishment or even knowing that we pleased one person because you don't necessarily. when your child's angry at you, they might not feel at all like
Yeah.
pleasing you.
You're also not at school. You don't go to school with them. So those skills being transferable, I'm not just helpful when mom or dad's around. I'm helpful because I am a helpful person
Yes.
versus I'm helpful for mom or for dad or whoever. Uh, I like to think about it as that flip. Our you language becomes a child's I language versus our I language becomes a child's you language. And what do I mean by that? So if I say, you are so helpful when you do XYZ. They're internalizing, oh, I am helpful when I do XYZ versus I like it when you do this. They're hearing, oh, you like it when I do this. So again, that you like it, you are not at school with me.
Yeah.
You are not in that job interview with me.
Right.
I am in school. I am in the job interview. So how do we call it intrinsic motivation
Hmm.
versus external motivators. So
I love that.
mhm,
That is a great way to think about it.
mhm,
We're building their internal voice with this kind of
mhm.
language. We're building that inner voice that's going to tell them, I am helpful, I am kind,
Yeah.
I am a safe and good person, I'm a good friend, I'm all of those things with the you language that we
Yeah.
use. Yeah.
Yep.
And I do want to just make a caveat. It's not that it's bad to say that I
Mm.
like something that a child did, especially if the child did it specifically for you. Um,
Yeah.
there's a difference to how I react when a child is showing me their artwork as opposed to giving me a card they made me. My language
Yeah.
is going to be
So
different.
true.
When they
Yeah.
hand me a card they made me for my birthday, or just because they really like me, or they drew me a picture, I am going to say how much I like it. I love
Yeah.
this. This is beautiful. Thank you so much. All of those things. If
Mhm.
they're just showing me what they did, I'm going to use my noticing language
Mhm.
because I want it to be about them.
Mhm.
You used lots of different colors on this. This is
Mhm.
very colorful. You did this, you did that. My language is going to be different depending on what my goal is. Is my goal to let them
Mhm.
know that I felt good about it, or is my goal to build in them a skill that
Yeah.
would be transferable to another environment?
Yeah. We're trying to avoid creating people pleasers.
Yes.
Hello.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with pleasing people
Yes.
sometimes. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, it fails us as a primary motivator of
Right.
behavior. And research
Right.
backs this up. So we
Mhm.
want to build lots of intrinsic motivation in our children.
Mhm.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is after we've, made an assertive statement and we can see that the child's not quite there yet, another tool that we can use that can really help us get there is positive choices.
Mhm.
Using some positive choices. You know that even if you're using your perfect assertive voice and you've told them exactly what to do and you've painted a picture and you're focusing on what to do, sometimes they're just not ready to get there yet.
No way.
Yeah, they're and it could be because they're feeling a little disempowered. They didn't
Yeah.
want to do that. They didn't want
Yeah.
to, they weren't quite ready. And
Yeah.
this is where the power of positive choices can come in. And
Mhm.
the key to positive choices is that they are two positive ways to get from point A to point B. Okay,
Mhm.
this isn't about outlining consequences or outlining if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. That's
Which
not
we
what
will
we're
talk
going to do.
about later.
Yes, we will, but this is because that's a different kind of choice. This is two positive choices of how to get from point A to point B. So it's time to go to bed. Do you want to walk beside me or do you want to have a piggyback ride?
Mhm.
There we go. We've given two positive choices. Um, do you want to put on your left shoe or your right shoe first? And I know these sound really simple, but what you've just
They're
done is
so
handed a
great.
lot of power back to that child
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
moment where they're feeling disempowered, where they're feeling helpless because something they didn't want is happening. I'm going to hand you
Mhm.
back some power.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how meaningful
Yeah.
and helpful this is
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
lot of situations.
Yeah. Children don't get a lot of choice, and I think we forget about that. I get to wake up, I get to choose sometimes if I wanna hit my snooze, if I wanna get up with my alarm or hit my snooze, I get to choose, what routine I do first, I get to choose what I wear, what route I take to work, all of these things. Children don't get to do that, so these kind of simple little choices that really end up like, what is the outcome of these 2 choices? It's what the parent wanted to happen. Kind of the hack that I use for choices are the who, what, when, where, and how. So the who, do you want mommy to walk you to bed, or do you want grandma to walk you to bed? It's the person that's doing that. The what, do you want to use a spoon to eat your dinner, or do you want to use a fork to eat your dinner? The where, do you want to sit on this side of the table or that side of the table? Different locations. Who, what, when. Oh, do you want to leave the park in 2 minutes or in 5 minutes? That's my favorite one.
It's
I had a
amazing
teacher
how well
one.
that works.
I know. I had a teacher one time say, like, the time was not an option, but for the child, the time was really important. So she said, do you want to go inside in 5 minutes or 2 + 3 minutes? And the child said, ooh, the 2 + 3 minutes. I said, okay. So she set two separate timers, one for 2 minutes and one for 3 minutes. And it worked so smoothly.
That probably felt so good. I mean,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
I looked at this teacher and I said, I'm stealing that. She said, steal that. Did I miss any of those? Who, what,
No.
when, how,
What was the
where?
last one? I don't remember.
I think I said how.
Yeah.
How do you want to crawl to your bedroom or do you want to hop to your bedroom? That's
Yeah,
a good one. Bringing in animals and fun, keeping it fun and light. That always is a de-escalation strategy. Yeah.
absolutely.
I also think practicing all of these, Dama has gone through a lot of scripts. So with positive choices, those aren't really going to come to you super naturally in the beginning. And so thinking, okay, if it's always a challenge to leave the park, what are some options that I can talk about? So when it inevitably next time we have to leave the park, like I said, like, okay, I'm going to say, do you want to leave in 5 minutes or do you want to leave in 2 + 3 minutes? So just to have those in your back pocket is really helpful.
Yeah. That is a really big and important piece of recognizing we're throwing a lot of tools at you here.
Yeah,
So,
we are.
recognizing that this takes time, a lot of time to build up mastery. We you know that our children take a long time to master new skills. So it's okay for it to take you some time.
Yeah.
Choosing one thing at a time to work on, planning ahead a little bit, and just giving yourself grace because you
Yeah.
know that inevitably you're going to get triggered and frustrated, and that the first thing we want to focus on is our composure. And
Yep.
so we're going to work on that before anything else.
Yep.
All these tools are there for your use and they're not going away. So you don't have to implement them all at once. But think about those moments that are most challenging for you, those moments that are real struggle, and think about what of these tools might be helpful in this moment. Do I need a
Mhm.
visual? Do I need to make a plan for the transition?
Yeah.
What choices can I give? Those kinds of things, and really
Yeah.
checking your language. Am I being assertive, not passive? Do I need to take that questioning out? Am I getting too aggressive and frightening my child and sending them down into a lower state of their mind? So just, pick something, head in that direction, work on these one at a time. It's hard to put them
Yeah.
all together all at once.
Yeah. I had two thoughts that came up kind of final for me in my head, wrapping it up. There's a big difference between firm, because firm is fine. Firm is safe. Firm is this is what I'm saying. Firm is assertive, and scary. I think that a lot of times we have a hard time differentiating those two.
Yeah.
And also, we deserve practice on assertive language, and shared language in a household is really important. And so, if you have multiple adults in your household, making a visual and putting it on your refrigerator that says, okay, when this happens, when this behavior occurs, this is what we're going to say. When we're getting ready to leave the house, we're going to say, it's time to put on your shoes. It's time to put on your coat. So, just so everybody is on the same page can be helpful.
Absolutely. That is really important. I mean, anytime you go into any sort of counseling or therapy with a family, one of the first things they do is try to get the parents on the same page. So
Yep.
yeah, we want to be on the same page. I love
Yep.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's all for today.
Great.
All
Thanks,
right.
Dama.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you all
Thanks for
next
being here.
time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.